Canaga, who's a well-known artist and leader in the Springfield, Eugene arts community. Robert, tell us about where we're going today and what we're going to be doing.
Well, we're going to go pick up some dirt outside of Playa, which is a wonderful place for workshops and overnight stays for artists, poets, writers, etc. There's an ochre deposit just south of there, and we're going to go up into the hills and dig out some ochre, and hopefully a red and a yellow today, and bring them back and make paint.
Looking forward to enjoying the process from beginning to end. So we have arrived with Robert, who is now finding us some red rocks. Tell us what you're doing.
Well, I'm looking for rock that's hard enough to hold, to be solid, but soft enough that it'll make a mark on another rock. So that's, you can tell, that's an ochre. That's that rust. Let's see if I can break this out. Yeah, that will make paint. And we're looking for as much red as we can get. Let me see. I don't want to go all the way up there, it's too steep. See, that's volcanic, so that doesn't work for paint. It doesn't make a mark, it pulls the dirt on the other one.
Okay, so here we are collecting some red dirt. This is exactly what Robert's been looking for. So we're gonna collect some of that if he doesn't fall on his ass. Okay, so we're at the studio of Robert Canaga today, and he's going to show us the beginning stages of making paint, and then we're going to move to his studio and put it into tubes and stuff. So, Robert, take it away.
All right, this is this is ochre that we gathered from the hills above the Playa in eastern Oregon, Summer Lake, and we've got three different kinds. I didn't get very much of the yellow, but I'll show you that colored. This is going to be a brown, an earth brown, and I've broken it from that size down to this size. And now I'm going to continue just pounding it. We're doing it out in the garage because this creates quite a bit of dust, and some of these minerals can be fairly toxic. So you don't want to breathe them in. Avoid breathing in any kind of pigment, even if it says it's not toxic, because a lot of them will settle in your lungs. And this process is pretty boring, but it yields really nice results. And this is a cast iron mortar and pestle. I found using the marble ones doesn't work for me because I have a tendency to hit things really hard, and marble does not hold up to me. I've broken two pestles.
Where would one find something like that?
Uh, Bayberry's um, cooking material store at Sheldon, across from Sheldon High School. You can order them online, but I prefer to go to the store and pick it up and hold it and figure out if it's the right one. It's the same way with most materials I use. I don't like to order without seeing them unless I know that they're trusted. So now it's down to fairly fine. And now we're going to start milling it.
Can you show us what that looks like?
Just going around and around, crushing this larger pieces. You're basically making dust. And this is a way to separate the large pieces from the small pieces and grind them down. And I usually do this for about 5 minutes on one this size. Sometimes it doesn't take quite as long. And if you cut out the long fine grinding, you can go straight to a filter and but then you have residue. And this way we're going to get rid of most of the larger pieces. So this is ready to take upstairs and sift. So what we'll do is we'll transfer this to a plastic bag. So that's ready to sift. Now we're going to do the red. This is quite a beautiful red ochre. You can see what I mean about the dust.
Yeah.
It's in here, yeah. So we've ground the chunks of ochre down to a finer powder, and we could still go finer, but we'll do that by sifting. And transfer it to the bag. And as you can see, the two are quite different colored from 10 feet apart up in the hills. Now, just for fun, there's a little bit of red left in here, but I'm going to take that lighter yellow and grind that down. And mix it with the residual red. And we'll take that one upstairs. You can see the distinct difference between the three. We'll take this one upstairs and filter it, and then we'll make some, grind a little paint. I've got this brown down now to about as fine as it can. The more you grind it, the more the color comes out. And the next step is to take it through a 190 micron filter onto your grinding glass. And the humidity here right now is pretty high, so it's the pigment seems it's kind of sticking to the bottom, absorbing moisture from the air. So I like to do it when the air conditioning is on and it's nice and dry. But all things being equal, turns out to be pretty cool paint. You get the rest out by brushing it down, and then eventually adding some water and washing it out, but that comes later. And just about enough to make a good mess. Now, I've got two malls. This is a standard artist maul for small pieces. This is a French maul that's about 250. It's about 250 years old, and I got it when I was in Paris. Ran into a guy who made paint for artists for 30 years in Paris, and when he came back to the States, he sold me his pigments and his maul.
And like I have, we'll do a shot of the pigment collection. You don't want to force this too much. You want to let it go through because you don't want to break the mesh. And you can regrind this and keep grinding it until you get all of it sorted. So we'll stop here for that back end. And here we have some beautiful yellow ochre, all from that little rock we heard. Now what I usually do is I add just a tiny bit of wax. This is a artist cold wax for oil painting. Doesn't take very much. Work that in. And ideally, I'll add the oil, a tiny bit of the oil, and then let it sit for about 24 hours and let it completely saturate all the pigment. If you do it too quickly, the pigment, there's going to be spots of dry pigment, and it's not going to be as good a paint if you let it set. That's one of the things that I learned from Art Graham at M. Graham Oils. You put the oil and the pigment, you let them sit, let them get to know each other, and then the next day you can start milling them. So we'll do a little bit of a shortcut here since it's not very much paint. So I've got that down to where I want it. Now we'll add a couple of drops. This is a sun-dried walnut oil that I made myself, if we can get it out of the jar. Yeah. This was set in the sun for approximately this was set in the sun for approximately 2 days in a very hot weather, and let it thicken just a tiny bit. Now stir that in. And you can always add more oil. And you can always, if you've only got a limited amount of pigment, you don't want to overdo it on the oil to begin with, because the oil will go farther than you think it will. And see how nice, what a beautiful color we're getting out of that. And that's 190 microns. Now, this glass has a ground surface as well as the ground surface on the mulled, so that they move the paint around, grind it farther, make it finer. And I don't usually grind very far, but you can. You can do this for a day and you get this creamy, beautiful paint. and it's quite nice to work with. You can kind of hear the grind. And every once in a while, you want to clean off the mull because it will pick up paint as it goes, moves it around. It's starting to be really beautiful paint. And because this is sun-dried walnut oil, or sun-thickened walnut oil, this will dry a little faster. So if I were making this for paint immediately, I would use it immediately. Like I would cover it and let it sit for a few hours, come back, restir it, and then paint with it. If I'm tubing the paint, then I'm going to use just walnut oil, just regular walnut oil. And some people use linseed oil. I don't like linseed oil because it turns rancid quickly, and it has a tendency to yellow and crack more than walnut oil. It was good enough for the Flemish, good enough for the northern Roman painters. It's good enough for me. And with another palette knife, take off the excess. And you could paint with this right now if you wanted to, or you can put it in a little container, or you can have what we're going to do. We're going to cover it for at least 24 hours and let the paints and the oil, the pigment and the oil mix. Pretty happy with that color. Let's see. What do I have for no blank canvases? You can see how beautiful that color is. And how rich it is. But you can see how different it looks against that and against the white. It's quite a dramatic difference. So from rocks to paint.
Yeah, it looks much darker on the canvas.
It looks a lot darker. And by adding that wax, it's given the paint a little more body. I like my paint to be more um, English, Northern European, as opposed to French or Italian, which has a tendency to be a little more runny, a little more fluid. Don't really know the reason for that, but it's I think it has to do more with style of painting. But yeah, there we go.
All righty. Thank you, Robert.
And the next time when we need to do it again, and I'll mix this into paint, and I'll use just walnut oil.
Okay.